Black people anonymously answer 7 burning questions.
In an age of call-outs, culture wars, and perfect facades, people can be afraid to express how they really feel. So we brought together 7 strangers, protected their identities, and asked them all 7 burning audience questions.
The police.
Wait a minute, that's a question? And then what do you mean by F the police? Let's see what they say. William.
I know that there are quote unquote good cops, but if you are working in an entire force with individuals who are essentially mostly racist, and where police come from, the history of it with being the sheriffs of slaves.
He has a point there. Police came about in order to track runaway slaves. There's probably many books written about it. Probably can pull it up like this, but I don't know about saying F the police. I don't know.
Wearing that badge is just, you're never really here for us, and we never feel safe for that reason. So them.
The only reason why I can't fully say that, like he just said, there are some good out there, and personally having a cousin who is a police officer, but everything else behind that and all of the other people who bring the racist and pretty much mentality to it.
Let me say this again. I believe, I guess I should give you my perspective on my worldview perspective. I believe we live in a social materialistic world dominated by racism and white supremacy. White supremacy is a system of thought, speech, and action used by people who classify themselves as white. Not saying all white people are white supremacists, just the ones that practice white supremacy, for the purpose of mistreatment and domination of people they have classified as non-white in all 9 areas of people activity. That's including economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. I think we need to point the finger at the system of racism and white supremacy, not just certain people who are in a so-called police department.
I don't really feel anything towards this statement because I haven't had any encounters with police, like, ever.
Why do you have to have a personal experience? Why can't you just look at the damage that has been done?
It's different because I feel like I feel the weight of my ancestors in certain situations in other areas of my life than I do with the police.
Okay, this is not me taking away from the Black community in general, because police are always targeting us, but I find it interesting that only the Black men had agreed with that.
I'm like on the fence with it because I know that there are Black cops out there that are truly trying to protect and serve.
I don't know what that means. Somebody, can y'all define protect and serve in the comment section? Like, these gentlemen here don't think they've been protected and served at all. Here's why I always say people define terms. Like, I get a lot of my ideology from a gentleman named Levy Fuller Jr. You can find him, go to producejustice.com. You can get his book, the United Compensatory Code book, and he's very logical in his thoughts, and he has helped me to understand reality.
If we completely destroyed the police system, I would be scared because it's like, okay, well, I don't believe that is the solution, but yes, Black men have that main encounter with the police, and sometimes it's annoying because it's like, okay, is this the only cause that y'all care about, is police brutality? But yeah, it's halfway with me.
I think feelings do become more intense though once you have an experience.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. No,
And so
definitely.
seeing situations where my dad got pulled over, got questioned, got harassed for no reason, then to experience my situation down in Texas. I had bought guns for the first time, registered them, followed everything to the T, and then still get pressed up against the side of my car like I did something wrong when I did it the exact way that y'all said I had to do it. That experience right there, my dad's situation started it, and then my situation is what finalized it.
Again, I think we are in a system designed to mistreat you if you have color in your skin. And I think a lot of us, this is just my perspective, are confused about that. So we point fingers at certain institutions like the police department, instead of saying the police are targeting us. Everything is targeting us as Black males, right? We're targeting ourselves. Look how we treat each other, how we talk to each other.
Sir.
We rob each other more than we rob anybody else. But so I think we should realize that the system is designed to confuse us. White supremacy is a system of confusion. So it's confusing us.
Asians racist towards you?
Are Asians racist towards you? What's an Asian?
Good question.
I don't know what you mean when you say Asians. Like, couldn't some of these people be Asian? If you're saying an Asian, a person of color, they're just non-white. So again, I don't believe non-white people can be racist in a system dominated by white racism, white supremacy. As Nita Fuller says, the only basic types of people on the planet are white, non-white, and white supremacists. And that's based on evidence and history. Like, again, where did this concept of race come from? And what would a person who considers themselves, who's been classified as Asian, what would they do in order to be racist towards one of these people? I just have questions, And these are just, these are honest questions, and we can have cordial conversations about it. And I just think, I don't know what their answer is going to be. It's going to be interesting to see.
I have a neighbor who is very privileged. She's married to a white man. She's Asian, and I feel like that comes.
What does that mean?
A lot nowadays in America. I feel like Asian women are trying to be the white woman of America, and they're not realizing that they're also in marginalized communities just as we are.
Especially Asians that are born into American culture. It seems like they're just pretty much white, and they don't have any empathy for other minorities.
I have had negative interactions with like Asian people or like other people because I'm Black and because colorism is a thing. But I've also had like positive interactions. So I feel like, yeah, Asian, it's just a very generalized term.
I know it happens, of course, but me personally, I have not experienced racism from the Asian community. I do totally agree with the idea of colorism because it does seem like the darker you are,
what's colorism?
The quote uglier you are in any ethnicity, which does suck.
I think the American influence is big. And that's on anybody that comes, no matter where you come from, what background. When you get to America, you spend a couple years here, you start to see how things are done. Whether they're right or wrong, you see how things are done, how Black people are treated, how white people are treated.
I'm going to be quoting a lot of Neely Fuller Jr.'s works. He states that there's no such thing as an America. If racism, white supremacy dominates the social materialistic world, that's an unjust gangster organization, then there's no such thing as an American. An American is a person who practices justice, and it's impossible to practice justice in a system dominated by injustice. You can't have both at the same time. And I agree with that. There's no such thing as an America. That's just it's just an idea. If you look at the history of the so-called America, the founding fathers were slave owners. The Constitution was put together during times of slavery. To me, it's a slave doctrine. There's no such thing as an America. The reason why there is because we have no power as non-white people. We have no power to say, wait a minute, there's no such thing as America until we practice justice as a people on the whole planet. There's no such thing as an Asian or an American or a Black person or a white person. But I'm gonna get some good comments on this one. I know that.
I have dated outside my race.
I've never dated outside of my race. I never dated anyone other than a Black female. Now, I've had sexual encounters with other races.
Damn, son.
I don't know what you mean by date. Like, we never had a long-term relationship. And again, I quote Neely Fuller Jr. I will let you kind of go and find his book on producejustice.com, and he gives you his explanation, which I agree with, his explanation of how non-white people, when they interact with white people in a sexual, when they interact sexually with each other, like, I believe, as he says, that we're in a childlike position. So technically, you're basically committing pedophilia if you are a white person dating someone that's been classified as non-white.
In my past dating history, I feel like, I tasted the rainbow pretty much. Like, I dated East Asian men, I've dated Hispanic men. It's different. Like, you're never gonna find somebody outside of your race that's gonna 100% understand you, understand your struggle, understand your family, why you do things the way that you do.
I'm not opposed to it. I would just kind of rather work with something that I know there's a lot of compatibility there.
I'm not opposed to dating outside my race, but in terms of marriage, I would love to marry a Black man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Think about our ancestors. Like
okay.
they're probably turning in our grave. They're grave. Like they're like, what are you doing? Like we've done so much, and you want to be with this white person or this non-black person?
I've never dated outside of my race, but maybe I should because a lot of black men tend to go to non-black
Because
women.
they can control them.
Yes, and
feel they can control
because
They're easier.
and because they have European features, softer hair. They
Exotic.
like the Kim Kardashian looking woman.
Exotic.
You know, you want the black woman aesthetic, but you need the European features. So maybe I should date outside of my race, but I personally, like you said, I want to build with the black man. I want to have black children.
There's no such thing as a black man or a black woman. It's an oxymoron. You can't be classified by another group of people and then claim to be a man or a woman. There's only one man and one woman in the system of racism and white supremacy. It's impossible. You got classified by another group of people and you call yourself a man or a woman. We're in a childlike position. I understand that. I try not to use the term man, or black woman. I try to say black male and black female. We were men and women. We will be able to make changes in economics, our situations in economics, and education, and entertainment, and labor, and law, and politics, and religion, and sex, and war. We will be able to make changes.
Having sex with a white man, it's the master aspect. It's the buck breaking history. If you know what buck breaking is, it's all of that combined. And then the idea of most times, even in heterosexual relationships, it's usually a fetish for the individual to be with you. It's either because you have a nice body or your skin is so dark and lovely, or because you have, that tool that they want, if you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, in general, it's always something on your body that they want. And if it's genuinely true love, that can happen. But for the most part, I just think interracial dating is disgusting.
I still don't know what interracial
I felt
is.
oppressed by my own community.
I felt oppressed by my own community. I don't know what they mean by oppressed by my own community. I think that's impossible. If you're talking about non-white community or people who've been classified as black, I don't know. Let me see what they say. So I couldn't do this. I have too many questions.
I actually sometimes feel very uncomfortable in spaces full of black people. If you're not desirable as a black woman, if you're not desirable to men, then you tend to get overlooked. I have to work my ass off for things that I want. Black men, cis hetero black men specifically, they oppress all of us. And it sucks because I want to be with a black man.
What is a cis hetero black, again, black male? I hear these terms, cis hetero, homosexual, asexual. I don't know what any of this stuff means, right? Again, I like Nita Fuller's term. I'm a counter-racist sexual. I'm a straight male that uses my sexuality to fight racism. It's just a lot of confusion.
I'm gay and I'm also black. So within the black community, I feel like, again, when we go out to these protests, when we go out to these clubs or parties and I'm in heterosexual spaces, I feel like, he's black, but like he's gay, so we can't really mess with him. Like he can't really be in our space. And it's like, how is this your space that you claimed over a sexuality and a sexual preference, essentially, rather than us being the same race?
Yeah, of course. Like you were saying, like if you're in the LGBTQ community, it's intersectionality. So people are more cool with me if I'm passing and they see me as like a cis black guy versus if they know I'm trans.
In terms of my experience, I feel like maybe black people were gatekeeping opportunities or like trying to be super stingy or trying to be the token black person and not really, they kind of like bully other black people to making them be like, you don't deserve to be in my space. Like this is my zone. This is the area that I'm working in. And it's kind of like they're trying to keep other black people from being successful. Like I feel like I've seen that a lot.
It's weird, not weird. It is interesting to see how a lot of people who've been classified as black, we always can see other people doing things to us, but we can't always see what we're doing to ourselves. I know a lot of times in my life, I would lie to myself. I'd be ignorant. I never read at all. And a lot of those problems I created, a lot of problems that are designed to hinder me, I would help make bigger, but because of my lack of knowledge or not wanting to gain knowledge or not understanding, just being confused a lot. And I just think a lot of us just want to blame instead of trying to fix the problem, right? So how do we fix the biggest problem on the planet, racism, white supremacy? As he says, we get a code. We do the most constructive things all the time. But it's just interesting to see how we talk about others instead of ourselves.
When I was living in Mississippi, I was around predominantly Black people. I didn't feel any different. But now that I'm back here in California and I'm around, other races, like, well, I can see why this could be considered colorist, or I can see how in this situation maybe I'm feeling, like I'm not as worthy as these other people. But I just couldn't use the word oppressed really to describe how my experiences have went.
Have you ever wished you weren't Black?
Have I ever wished I weren't Black? I never said here's the thing. I never said I was Black. When I was born, somebody told me I was Black. They classified me, and I think this is where the confusion comes in. You know what I'm saying? Because if it wasn't for being classified, there would be no such thing as Black. These race classifications that, again, read the book, Race in North America, The Evolution and Origin of a Worldview. Start there and understand how race became this big social construct that's dominated the world.
I want to say, record straight, I love myself now. Like, I love being a Black woman. But like for so long, because of also family members feeding into the whole idea of like, oh, you're so pretty because you're lighter. For so long as a child, I associated being Black as being something that was a bad thing because I saw how people that were darker than me were treated. And I was just like, oh, I don't want to be this anymore. But I mean, with a lot of love and compassion and hardcore teaching, I was like, being Black is honestly the best thing ever.
We lit. I just feel like we're lit, and I get where that comes from. That's a part of colorism, and that happens a lot in our community. And I just feel like if we all just accepted our Blackness more, we would just be great.
Like when I was younger, I moved to like a town that was like predominantly like white and Hispanic. I never felt like specifically like, oh, I wish I wasn't Black, but I did like look at other people and say, I wish I had hair like them. I wish I looked more like them.
Like I love being the race that I am, but having 4C hair and having darker knuckles, darker kneecaps, especially in elementary school and middle school, getting through that was really hard. Now at this age, I'm learning to accept all parts of me, but I still battle with it like every day.
There were times where I maybe wish that I wasn't Black American, that maybe I wish I was an African woman or Brazilian, because I feel like Black Americans, like we kind of were disconnected from our African roots and our heritage. And that part kind of hurts because it's like we don't really have much to call our own besides like Ebonics or AAVE, but Black American culture has ultimately set the tone for a lot of modern day pop culture too, so I'm proud of that part as well.
I would raise my kids differently than my parents raised me.
If you haven't had an experience with whether sexual abuse or some type of violence in your home, you are lucky in the Black community because it happens to so many of us. And I feel like with me experiencing that growing up, I would never beat my child. I don't want to have to feel like beating my child is the resource or a source of like them respecting me. Yes. I want them to know about mental health and take their mental health actual like serious because we don't take it serious in the Black community at all.
I love that you mentioned that specifically about mental health because it's something you can't talk about in our community sometimes. It's like, well, what's wrong with you? Like, are you crazy? I'm gonna whoop your tail. Like, you shouldn't be acting this way. I give you everything. You have no reason to be depressed. I don't wanna reciprocate that onto my children, and I don't want them to feel like if they're feeling depressed, if they're feeling overwhelmed, I don't want them to think they can't come to me and talk about it. My parents, they didn't have that opportunity to communicate with their parents because they were raised in a completely different generation. So now, like, I see my mom was, raising me this way because that's what she's used to, but I'm gonna cut it off with my line.
Our kids are probably gonna be like, yeah, I ain't doing that. When I have my kids, like each generation gets wiser and they learn something else or have resources to something else. So I just wanna always highlight the good things that my parents did. I've already acknowledged them and addressed the bad things with them, but now I can forgive and let it go and just highlight what they did do right and kind of mix that with my own.
I can't be honest about who I am.
This is a very good question. If you can't be honest about who you are, you're lying to yourself, right? So if you're lying to yourself, you most for sure gonna lie to everyone else.
Being black, like if I'm in a white space, I'm like constantly like, how am I coming off? But a lot of times for me, it's like, you know, in terms of being trans also, like how am I walking? How am I talking? How am I being received? Do these people, are they speaking at me or looking at me like they're comfortable with me? And it's just pretty tiring sometimes when I'm around other people and I'm constantly checking myself.
Since we're in the age of like cancel culture,
What's cancel culture? What does that mean? And then who you get canceled? I understand people are canceling, but I don't get it. I'm confused on the terms. I would like to know who came up with it. Who came up with it? Who coined the phrase cancel culture? I guess they're the only person that actually can tell you what cancel culture is. I don't know why everybody else has adopted the terminology. It makes no sense. How are you getting canceled? I think the only counsel, the most permanent counsel is death. Y'all let me know in the comment section, and maybe y'all can help me out with this one.
sometimes you can because you have like a fear of getting canceled or a fear of people like lashing out on you. And I feel like in certain senses like that, I can't be completely honest in terms of like my views on certain things just because of like how people are going to react.
It takes
Trust me, if I could put out a video talking about racism and white supremacy is the biggest problem on the planet, everybody should be able to voice their opinions about things. Let's go.
a lot for a person to be themselves and fully own their identity, no matter who you are or what you are. So living in that, I've learned to own that, and I'm always blunt. I'm always me. What you see is what you get. If you got a problem, you can leave. So yeah.
It's exhausting to try to defend yourself all the time about who you are, but at the end of the day, I sleep better at night knowing that I'm just me.
I'm just me. All right. Hey guys, thank you for watching this video. That was a very interesting segment. I'm gonna have more videos like this coming out. A lot of my perspective. One thing I do want to tell you, don't ever listen to me, right? I feel I'm the most ignorant person I know, but I do have my perspective on society and reality, right? I use logic most of the time. But again, thank you guys. But on your way out, please hit that subscribe button for me. And hit that like button for me. I greatly appreciate it. And until next time, peace.